basically that we've got a list here now. You've got a 9 block of Kurnoth Hunters. This is achieved what I call the business status. 600 points on nine Kurnoth Hunters with a force multiplier is the business.
Yeah. So right now, one of the things that I see as we're looking at this list is we're thin on heroes. We can't just have two. We just can't have 2 heroes. And I think the other thing that we're missing is the ability to put more trees out on the battlefield. So we already are obliged to a command trait as well as an artifact. Mm-hmm. So I think the next thing that you take is the Tree Lord Ancient, because he can just up and set down a wildwood once per game for free.
Even though he's a single caster?
Yes, even though he's a single caster. And
right.
While Awakened Woods is okay and fine or whatever, you're probably going to end up using him for one of the Lore of the Deep Woods, probably Regrowth.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But all of the casters have Verdant Blessing in the background inherently, so he might just be a model that's just out there and casting Wildwoods just all game, setting them up, because
Oh no. Did I drop again? Hello? Oh god. Internet issues tonight. Hey. Okay, I'm live for you, so I lost Discord. Testing. Dead Air is great TV, by the way. This is making fantastic air. I'm gonna go ahead and leave Discord and come back. Call him again. There we go. Hey, there we go. I'm back. All right. So
Yay.
One of the things we're talking about, Tree Lord Ancient. So Tree Lord Ancient is right now in the role player position, because we need a 3rd hero slot, and it is performing a role. This isn't direct gasoline for the Kurnoth Hunters, and it's not, this isn't direct gasoline for like our basic build strategy, which is like, we want to play around Kurnoth Hunters. The Tree Lord Ancient is a role player. The role player position, what it is doing, and then you were explaining what we're doing with the Tree Lord Ancient. If you could pick back up with that, please.
Yep. Yeah, so what we're doing with the Tree Lord Ancient is we're setting out at least one set of trees outside of the one that we're starting with. The Kurnoth Hunters are kind of inherently immobile. They're not completely immobile, but they're definitely on the slower end of this game for the amount of points that we're investing in them. So we want to create a Kurnoth delivery system, which is the trees, right?
Right.
And that puts us at 1680, so that leaves us with 320 points to work with, which is a pretty comfortable space, but we're not going to take another like Death Star of Kurnoth Hunters. We could take something like Durthu, but right now we still have to allocate that artifact. And I think we want to have one Arch Revenant that just hangs out in the trees and basically cannot be targeted, because he's not going to be visible.
Right.
For the most part. But because he lacks the fly keyword. Oh no, he can fly, so you can see him. Never mind. Stupid question.
No, he's in the corner
but
of the board. Like, he's just in the corner.
Sure, you could do that. But I think a second one to physically accompany the Kurnoth Hunters is going to have value for us.
Where are you placing the art? So this one's going to actually wear the artifact, isn't it? Because you're going to have the other one just to like always project the buff. Hopefully, that's like your insurance. You basically have like an insurance revenant. Are you tossing the general keyword on the one that's hiding?
Let's see. What does the general do for us? Because I think it's useless.
It's probably, useless.
The trait you have to take is Legacy of Valor. If it dies, you pick an enemy unit within 1 inch of the general before they're removed from play and roll a dice. On a 2 to 5, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. On a 6, it suffers D6.
All right, so the general is the one that follows the unit around. Got it. Because
Sure.
It might die. Whatever.
It literally doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, yeah.
All right, so that gives us 220 points to goof around with. And
this is where I've traditionally taken. So actually, I haven't taken the double Revenant. In my experimental builds, I've only taken one. And I've actually taken a second. This is where I've taken a unit of Archer Kurnoth. But you may have different thoughts.
Yeah, I think here it comes into the thought process that I have of don't be okay at something, be great at the thing that you're being great at.
Yep.
So actually, the first place I look when we're in a spot like this is, Coach put out a good suggestion, which was doing the 3 units of Spites in the Spite Battalion. Is there another artifact that we want?
Well, now we look for gas, right? Is there? They don't have generic artifacts, do they?
Yeah, they do. They have artifacts.
All right, yeah, Allegiance ability. Let's check our generic artifacts. What do we got going on in here? Because this is the first thing I would check, right?
Right.
Let's see.
Weapons, yeah. Probably not super useful.
Right. So boons.
Briar Sheath isn't bad, but we don't really have a character.
That we want that on, yeah.
Right.
Immortal. I see a lot of stuff that's saying to the bearer, and we don't have a hero that like really takes advantage of doing stuff.
Right. Like if we ran a Durthu in this list, okay, I could see it.
Yeah.
Acorn's not bad.
Wow, this is terrible.
Yeah,
this is used
this
for an attack that targets the bearer has a Ren characteristic of 1. Change it to 0.
This book is rough.
Specifically 1. Mm-hmm. Not reduce it. No, like just like it has to be specific. 1, 2. Like no shit, man. Like throw that through, yo. But like if it's 1, it doesn't have Ren anymore. What a terror! Why so specific? Don't write.
Yeah. So.
Okay, sorry.
So jump right to the wizard-only ones. I think there's 2 worth looking at.
All right.
The first one is Acorn of the Ages, which is another free tree.
Yep, Acorn's great.
And then Spirit Song Save, which is an extra spell.
Both good.
I don't think you necessarily need another spell. The spells themselves don't add a lot of firepower to your army.
Gas. Yeah, these aren't gas spells. These are you take them because they're the best spells in your lores and they do something. You know, these are not. I mean, these are not like Overwhelming Dread. Overwhelming Dread you cast it every fucking game, every time, every turn. You know, like -1 to hit, -1 bravery. Everyone gets it. Pew pew pew. You know, Van Hels. I'm gonna try to cast it every time. But you're not really like. You don't have a 3 Stooges effect of great spells here, like struggling for like to be in first place or the first through the door. You just take the spells that are good in it. So like you're not really benefiting from that second spell. I mean, you're not. I like Acorn because it's further enabling. I'm gonna look for anything that has any synergy whatsoever with my Kurnoth, because my Kurnoth is my winning stroke. That's how I win the game, and I need to deliver that win stroke to where I need it.
Agreed. So, I think Coach is making another good point in chat. So that pushes us towards, is there anything in malign sorcery that we want to consider? Is the Aether Quartz Brooch something that we want?
Not for this army.
Really?
I don't like it. I don't think you have enough. Okay, I like the idea of getting a battalion because you want more CP.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm not.
Well, so,
go ahead.
I said, so here, let's experiment with something.
Okay.
Let's bust out 3 units of Spite Revs instead of the Tree Revs.
3 Revs, so we're shaving some points here, right?
Mm-hmm. And we're going to toss in the Outcast Battalion and see where that puts us. 1820. So not only now do we start with the CP, we also have another artifact. And the question is what did we give up? We gave up some mobility. Fine.
But we've got mobility because we got trees, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah, I like this, and we lower our drops. I like this, and now we got it. Now what do we do with that second artifact, right? So Aether Quartz Brooch. We're going to start with our 2. I might make a case for buying that second command point to make me consider Aether Quartz Brooch.
Yeah, so let's grab that real quick.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna that's where I'm at. Like if I only have my 1 for my battalion and my 1 on that turn, I'm like, not enough. I mean, Slaanesh we are not. Orcs with like some Gloomspite tech we are not. So if I buy that extra command point, now you can convince me to take Aether Quartz Brooch.
Yeah. So now we got a B from the Realm of Haish. And I'd actually give the Branch Wraith.
Do I need to explain my like kind of mentality on that? Because it's just a straightforward numbers game at that point.
Yeah, you want to be throwing more dice regularly. Right? You know, like if it's just the 1, now you've got 2, but now we've got 3 dice that we're throwing CPs at, or that we're throwing 5-ups at. You're likely to get some of them back over the course of the game. And you don't feel so sad when you lose them.
So now we're in Hish, so that question's answered. So we've answered that, and now I can be talked into the Aether Quartz Brooch because we've got the battalion and we bought the extra command point.
Yeah.
So now we're at 130, $130.
Yep. And I think you're giving it to the Branch Wraith because she doesn't fly, and you can just pop her in a woods, and life is good.
Right.
You're giving her the spell Throne of Vines to make her base spell more reliable. And as we're talking about spells, I think you're giving what did I say? Regrowth to the Tree Lord Ancient.
On the Tree Lord,
yeah. Yeah.
I think you could see. I think you're in what I call season to taste land. With what spell you're giving the Tree Lord Ancient. Whether
that's reasonable.
Regrowth or the heal.
Okay.
I think that's season to taste.
Yeah, so we've got 130 points left here though. Yeah. What are we gonna do? So let's look back. Oh, go ahead.
This isn't like I wouldn't call this the core of the list, but this is the finishing touches are landing on the list thing. Like the core of the list for me is like the double arch rev. Well, no, I'd actually say the core shifted. Once we grabbed that battalion, I think the core of the list shifted. So this is probably this is really close to finish, and now we need to do something with that 130.
Yeah. Now we've got 130 points. Is it worth spending the time to try and to bring cogs to make the teleport and charge for the Kurnoth Hunters more reliable? Is that something we want to do? Casting it can be kind of shaky, but at the same time, you also have a wizard who's got a spell that can just become +2 to cast, and now suddenly it goes on a 5. Right?
Right.
Not so scary. Do we want to take those 130 points and take more Spite Revenants? Is that a thing we want to do?
I'm not worried about bodies because I think our summoning's going to prevail in the end, and it's just about
summoning will prevail.
Well, no, I mean summoning's gonna. I mean that's the attrition game. That's what summoning does in this list.
I was making an Always Sunny joke.
Yeah, fair enough. Our winning strategy's not happening. Our win stroke is on the Kurnoth for the most part. And the game is played. The attrition is played on the backs of that summoning where we're going to get our extra bodies. I don't want more bodies up front. I want more enablement up front, if that makes sense.
Sure. More buff, more of your combat-y buff pieces.
I want more gas. Yeah, I look at a list and I go more gas until it burns down, and then I'm like, okay, I need more bodies. But thanks for that. Yeah, great stream tonight. Thanks, Grim Slacker. Even though we went down twice. I'd hear out cogs. Now
I think what you're talking. Yeah, I think when you're talking buffs, it is cogs.
Yeah.
You wanna deliver the nonsense faster and harder.
Yes. Yeah. I was kind of talking through my reasoning on why I would take cogs, because I always have to hold a little bit on cogs. Because your opponents are getting that buff too, and that always makes me a little apprehensive. But if my plan is to be the one to cast cogs and then deliver the beatdown, I want to do that, and I'm in control of when that beatdown happens. And I'm going to, as a board control style army with my trees and a decent amount of screening, I feel like I'm going to dictate the table.
All right, so you want to talk about some more gas, man? Because I got some ideas. Ready for this?
Okay.
Ready for this idea?
Okay.
Big ideas here, huge ideas.
All right.
So we've got navigate realm routes, right? Which is instead of making a normal move in your movement phase, you can pick up through a wildwood and go somewhere else. Fine. We've already got cogs for hopefully +2 in this situation. Well, what if we did the Spite Swarm Hive, which is an additional 50 points, which will put us at 2,000 even, for the ability the Hive nourishes. At the end of the hero phase, if this model is on the battlefield, the player who set it up can pick one of the effects below and immediately resolve the effect. The same unit cannot be picked to be affected by this ability more than once per hero phase. And the one we're interested in is the Vital Venoms, the first rule. Roll a dice for each Sylvaneth unit wholly within 8 inches of this model. On a 2-up, add 3 inches of that unit's normal move and charge moves until the end of the turn.
So that's the nitro. So we had the gas before, and now we got the nitro boosters.
I'm going to deliver that 9 Kurnoth Hunter Bonanza right to the middle of your face with reliability. And we've got all these command points. So, okay, you failed the 4-inch charge, or you failed the 7-inch charge, or you failed the 6-inch charge. Whichever combination you have up, you've got the command point to burn, to re-roll the charge, 1. And then you've still got the command point to buff up their attacks characteristic, which is pretty good. And you've got the command point if you want to just turbo burn for the re-roll hit rolls of 1.
Turbo burn. All right. So I just called this list. What did I call it? I think I called it like RantCast Revenants or something like that.
RantCast Revenants.
And the list builder is Chat Gang. We're from Hish. We're Heartwood. We've got Double Arch Revenant, Branch Wraith with Aether Quartz Brooch, Throne of Vines, Tree Lord Ancient with Deepwood Spell Regrowth, 6 Kurnoth Hunters, 9 Kurnoth Hunters, 3x5 Spite Revs, Outcast Battalion, and then we've got 3 Endless Spells in here.
Yeah. So normally, it's 2 spells and 1 is the command point. So so right here at the completion of the list is where I would go grab my notebook and I would write down the thoughts I had while building this list. What did I think this army was going to do? Why did I think the units were going to do what they did? What my goals are with it? How I plan on approaching the missions and stuff like that. Because it might be like a week or 2 before I get to put the army on the table, and you haven't really. And if you don't capture the thoughts in the moment, they have a tendency to disappear on you sometimes. This is what it is.
I have like 7 notebooks floating around me with my thoughts on various topics. For really real, like that's like I've actually got this notebook sitting out in front of me for RantCast coming into tonight, with thoughts I took at the beginning of the week. Did they all like pan out tonight? No, but I had to write them down in case they came up. Right, real quick. The Spite Revenants into the battalion. AOS Coach helped us with a shortcut with that, right? Because what would have happened is we would have had our 80 point other dudes instead. Been like, I'm taking them because mobility, right? That would have been the note in the notebook next to it. We would have gotten it to the table and went, needs more testing. And we would have probably then come back to this list, swapped out for Spite Revenants and the battalion, right? Like that was, That's how that would have happened sort of more organically if you're performing sort of list science IRL, right? Without the benefit of the collective.
Yeah. Well, but that's also part of it is asking for help from people who have played, what their thoughts are,
Yes.
what they have seen. You don't have to
Yes.
necessarily do this in a vacuum.
Borrowed
The
knowledge is significant. You know, it's
hmm
literally how I started an entire show. Is I just bring on guests smarter than me and borrow their knowledge.
Here you go. It works. It works.
It works. Yeah, no, I mean that's kind of we. I mean we have a little chat with a bunch of OBR players, and we're just like picking each other's brains and stuff. But the other thing is you got to take this out into the wild now. We feel pretty good about
Right.
this list.
Yeah. So now it's time to go and play the game, and at the end of it, you write down what worked, what didn't. If it worked the way you did, maybe what you feel that you need. Maybe you have something that you really like. You go, we need to find a way to do this more. Um, and work off of that. So I'm not saying that this is necessarily a tournament winning list, right out of my hip pocket. I think that's a crazy assumption.
Mm-hmm.
Um, seeing as how like we learned some things in the book as we went.
Yeah, we were learning as we went, right? We haven't gotten our secondary or our sideways knowledge yet, but we've got a really great starting point with this, you know? And books are going to vary in power up and down. We wanted to play with Kurnoth Hunters. We built a list around Kurnoth Hunters to deliver them, to amplify them. Yeah, there's like, I mean, this is what you do. You start with a premise or in science a hypothesis. Can I win with Kurnoth Hunters? Would have been our question, right?
Yeah.
Can I build a list to win with Kurnoth Hunters? And then we went through what's everything that helps Kurnoth Hunters win. Okay, we put that all on the list. Now our game is played in 3 dimensions. You're not going to have all the variables answered immediately. You're going to have to take it out. You're going to have to play it. Hopefully, you play it in a robust sort of set of games, or you have like just a great friend who has like a plethora of lists, or in the case of like Halo and I, we usually like proxy some lists to play against when we're like about to commit to spending a lot of money on something, you know. I mean, with OBR was different. I'm like, I knew I was buying a fucking everything. But like with my Beast of Chaos, I wasn't certain. I was about to play Slaanesh Beast of Chaos, Depraved Drove. And then like, I'm like, well, hang on, I already have a bunch of Beast of Chaos models. Before I chop off all of their arms and give them Krabby Claws, how does this play? So I played with them kind of as was before the conversions, and I'm like, pretended that they were Depraved Drove, and it didn't feel right to me. Like I backed away from that list pretty quick, but that was just because it didn't play the way I wanted to. And it like when I want to win, whatever, I don't care. It didn't. It wasn't like the cheeky game I wanted to play that Beast of Chaos play. So I cut you off though. I'm sorry. You were talking about like taking your notes. How we wouldn't have necessarily jumped onto this list immediately. This might not even be the best list. We may have another evolution of this list, but you got to take your notes.
Yeah. It's all about taking the time to learn, and we've done the theory crafting here. We have an idea of what it is that we want to do, how it's going to interact with things, and when we take it to the table, we might be totally wrong, and we have to totally start over potentially in that case. But I think in terms of a punch in the mouth army that looks to try and clear a sizable amount of your opponent's list, first thing, you know what? I feel all right about it.
Yeah, I look at this list and I know how I play against my own Petrifex Elite list, right? Like I know how I play against my own army. I think that's important too. Like the more you have a mind towards this stuff, the more that you can sort of like connect the dots conceptually before you have to take it to the table. But you still got to play it. Yes, you can look at an ability and go, this is the best ability in the book. That sort of knowledge that's pretty easy on its surface level. The more moving parts you add to that, though, the more difficult it becomes to conceptualize. A lot of us can go 2-3 degrees from that first, this is a great ability or this is a great unit, But by the time you add in battle plans, the opponent's army and what they're trying to stop you from doing now, you know, there
Yeah.
are armies out there that counter my spells. How reliably do they counter my spells? Like, I know Nagash will just shut down my fucking spells, but I'm gonna play against him, right? Like, a lot of that stuff becomes understanding your meta, like sort of tailoring it to it, not giving a fuck and just playing your list. It's okay to just want to play your list too, by the way. And then, but you got to take it out into the wild to have an understanding of your own list, and that helps build your confidence in your own list because you know it better. And when you know it better, when you have that sort of direct knowledge, you can play it better, and it just you're starting to sort of stack successful strategies or mentalities, I should say.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I'd approach it.
Right, and we actually we tend to like you, me, a few other friends we like to come up with lists and then email it, and then like eventually what happens is like email back and forth, and you have like a starting point or a starting premise, and then like sometimes you end well off that like initial premise because you discover some other like something else in the book that's like even cooler or that you get more excited about, you know, and again, a necessary part of science, right? One of the most necessary parts of science is actually peer review, which is often left out of the scientific process of other inferior scientists. But peer review is important. So having people to like playtest with and take your list out and bounce ideas off of is super important. I guess what I'm saying is listen to Cubic Shenanigans. Follow Brendan at hobby_bear on Twitter, and watch RantCast and talk to me, and we'll bounce some ideas around. Go ahead.
There you go. And anybody who actually takes the time to interact with me finds that I probably spend an inappropriate amount of time helping complete strangers with army-related questions.
Yeah. It's very fun for me. This exactly what we did here is fun for me. I started the show with that picture of like, you know, the old meme. I bet he's texting other girls, and the guy's just on his Azir app. I got yelled at for Warhammer on my phone. Okay, like think about like being a teenager, like no food, no phones at the dinner table, except it's like no Warhammer on your phone. We're eating. Literally every day, because
babe, how am I going to solve this?
Half the day I am, if I'm not talking about Warhammer like on Twitter, I'm in Azir, like coming up with lists. A lot of times it's my armies. A lot of times it's my armies, but sometimes I get a question in my head. Beasts of Chaos started as a question: is this list good? Like my love for Beasts of Chaos is like my vacation army is, I'm like, I think Phantasmagoria is great, and by the end of it I'm like,
maybe not.
By the end of it though, I was like, Zangor and Lightened on Discs are great, and I was ahead of the curve because I had a question, you know.
They sure are.
Like and like you. And then I bought like a whole army, and like now I'm like, Bestigors are great. And Ungor Raiders, by the way, low-key the best thing in that book. But anyway, because like you have that, you do the work, you peer review with friends, you take lists into the wild, you play, you have a passion, you're playing to learn a lesson, you're building a list to learn the lesson. You're not afraid of losing. You're not afraid of experimentation. Like, you don't give up a game as lost before you play it out to see if you've got some additional strategies you didn't see at the surface level of building that list. This is all part of like list science. They aren't called okay-agors, they're called bestigors. They're the fucking best. Cities of Sigmar is one of those books that like drives a person mad because there's some combos in there that like I've skimmed over because I'm like, I don't give a shit about dwarves. And then, like, I went back to them, I'm like, oh, shit, hammers are probably one of the best thing in this book because all their force multipliers add up to more than great sorters.
Yeah, great swords are so good.
Greatswords are very good, and there's something to be said for easy cheese, man. There is nothing wrong with a point and click. It does what it says on the War Scroll, and it kicks your ass. And like Phoenix Guard were like that, where I'm like, oh, Phoenix Guard on the War Scroll, point and click, kick your ass. And then I saw and then I finally read the Anointed War Scroll on foot, and I'm like, this guy's fucking ridiculous. He turns 400 points of kick your ass Phoenix Guard into this is a problem for an entire army if they don't have the answers. Like Anointed on Phoenix, tell your friends. Thanks AOS Coach for turning me on to it. Sorry, not Anointed on Phoenix. Anointed on Foot plus Phoenix Guard. Like, very good combo right there in that book. Even when, like, I'm listening to, like, some of the other content creators, like, everyone's talking about Phoenix Guard, I'm like, none of their lists have been running this Anointed yet. I don't know who freaking came up with it first. I won't claim it. I won't claim any ownership over it. I overlooked them. And I'm just like, this is worth building armies around now. Like, there's just Cities of Sigmar, Slaves to Darkness, Beasts of Chaos. These are books that just are list science havens. KO, not so much, I guess, because they have a lot of, like, anti-synergy, which is where you want synergy. That's what makes a list scientist salivate, is you're just like, I look for synergies and combos. I look for ways to enable, like, even if it's not a direct synergy, enablers, you know? Which is what trees are in here, which is what sort of cogs and Spite Swarm Hive are. You know, they're not direct force multipliers, but getting your guy where it needs to be to do the damage is an enabler. Like, you start to, like, get those, like, deeper levels of appreciation for the things going on in your book, and then, gasp, you figure out you can go outside your book, and then the fucking bonkersness happens.
My God.
Yeah.
There are other books?
Yeah, I know. This isn't even taking this into living cities yet and seeing what other, like, stuff exists.
Or even the Ideneth land and and sea battalion.
Yeah, and you can tell with relative experience, with enough experience, you can tell this is a good thing, this is a bad thing by looking at a war scroll. You really can. And I don't know any way to really quantify that. It took a lot of doing math, which I hate, to figure out, like, how much 3s, rend 1, damage 1 was really worth points wise. You know, like.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a while to figure that out. I came up with some rules of thumb that helped me, like, just keep skimming past a war scroll to not waste my time with it. But every now and then, like, what about rules? There's always exceptions, right?
Yep.
So like, sometimes you skim past something that you think is bad on its surface because you have these, like, well, 4s and 3s tend to suck, right? Well, there's exceptions. And then you go back and you find those exceptions and you refine your opinion. And you always keep asking questions. Like, good science asks questions and seeks answers. It doesn't say I have the answer. It's always solving the problem. And if you're always trying to, like, if you've always got a can I win with Kurnoth Hunters, you know, and you keep asking that question, how do I win with Kurnoth Hunters, and you keep doing that, you're gonna come to some pretty great lists that you really, really enjoy playing. And we talked about, like, the competitive component a lot this episode. I know we did, because that's just the common fulcrum for which most things are gauged.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard to quantify how, like, looking at this list, how fun this list is to paint. It's hard to quantify that. That's a lot.
It's probably super fun to paint.
Probably. Kurnoth Hunters are fucking sweet, yo. And
yeah, I've got 9 with bows.
Yeah, and I and it doesn't run any dryads, which I love, because I think dryads are a abhorrent sculpt.
Well, you don't start with dryads. You do end up with quite a number of them.
I know.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, I'm looking at this list, I'm like, oh, I've got, like, a huge crap. I've got 2 sweet models with the Arch Revenants, because they're, like, really cool sculpts. Kurnoth Hunters are cool. I like Spite Revenants. They pretty much become bits for everybody else's conversions, so it's cool to play with them. I just kind of, like, go down the list of, like, oh, yeah, I paint all this, and then you just reminded me that I'd have to paint dryads, and now
you'd only probably have to paint, like, 2 boxes. I think 30 is a safe number.
That takes away 20% of my enjoyment of this list.
Okay.
Of painting this list. But no, again, we maybe talked a little bit more about competitive. It's just an easy fulcrum to balance the discussions on. But like again, list science can be applied to, pets.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Like what the hell was my one? Oh, cockatrice lists. Cockatrice lists is like one of my like dumb list science.
The cock meta.
Yeah, the cock meta. Like, can I do it? Like, there's a lot of list sciences, like, you're so busy wondering if you can do it, you never stop to, like, ask, or if you should. So, like, list science has that danger. And at the end, it's, you gotta remember what your goals are with your list, too. I mean, I've said it 1,000 times now. What do you want to do with it? Do you want to go, do you want to, like, have a blast in the basement? Oh, that's easy. Do you want to have like just fun competitive games on mid tables, or are you there to like play in the 6th gear? Because those might look different. Sometimes you're going to grab a book and you're going to go, this doesn't have a 6th gear. Right. I'm not convinced this is a 6th gear list. I think it's a comfortable 4 or 5 though. Probably closer to 4 than a 5.
Yeah, this is definitely not a 6th gear list. I mean, think about the things that you're going to come across if you need to win a tournament, right? You're probably going to come across Slaanesh. You just feed the army. Congratulations.
Yep.
You're probably going to come across Flesh Eater Courts. You can hang with that one a little bit better, but you still have to deal with the reality of a Gristlegore General. You can hang in there and swing back, and you might be able to deal with that problem. But that's closer to a coin flip.
You play that game. That's one of those, like, that's not a gimme. You play that game. Right.
Right.
You gotta play that game, and you gotta play that game. And that's a 50-50. So now that's a 0.5 win, right?
Right.
So, instead of, like, a win, and you've already taken a loss with Slaanesh. So... You got
Skaven in there, probably.
Skaven is at least a 50-50 with everybody, if not a loss for you, right? So you got to think, like, and then you can quantify things like that. It's pretty easy to, like, kind of go through and do your power checks. Again, it's okay to go, I think I've got a great list against the power 5, right? But, like, I punt to, like, the 5th one. Like, I literally punt the match to Skaven. If the Skaven player's on the right list, I punt to them. Okay, so now I'm a 4-1. Okay, I'm
sure.
okay.
That's a great weekend.
I'll take that week. Yeah, if I play like 3 Skaven players, suddenly I had a bad weekend. But like, I'll still like play them because I like my chances of sometimes like doing the YOLO strat. You know, like playing to my out, going like how I beat Skaven with Nagash is like who had Jazil's, by the way. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna bet you don't roll well in this shooting phase, and then I'm gonna get in with everything. And if I can get that far, I can win this game. And that's exactly what I did. I could have walked up to the table and went, he beats me, and I just deploy back like a coward. He moves up and shoots me in my deployment zone, and now I've lost the game, which is what I was supposed to do anyway. Or I can be like, you know what? A little bit of YOLO. Let's go. Red line. I'm going to charge him with Nagash. And I did, and because I was playing to that strategy, knowing I take a bad beat in that matchup, so I was able to play a little bit more aggressive because I had to play to my out. Because I played without fear. I had a great game. A fucking great game. And I made a friend that day, too. Like, there are things like that happen. Like, so, like, list analysis is I love list science. But, like, that'll get you so far. And we're trying to get you as far as possible with the list. By the way, that's what we're doing this episode. I'll tell you later how to get you as far as possible with gardening. But for now, it's about the list. What you're gonna need is a good pair of garden shears. No, I'm kidding. Gardening pop, dude.
List Science 3: How to Not Kill Your Plants.
How to not kill your plants. It's actually just Sylvaneth Part 2. All right,
the Sylvaneth podcast now.
Yeah, we're a Sylvaneth podcast. We'll do some wacky. I like this list. This is fun. I think this is a good like probably again closer to a 4th gear. This is going to be, if you love Kurnoth Hunters, this is a fat middle Kurnoth Hunters list, and I think you'd have a lot of fun with it. And you can get it out there and you play with it. You might find that like there could be some additional gas you could find via an ally, bringing it over to cities, taking the pieces you like about this and doing like that just keeps evolving.
Split the 6-man into 2 3s. You know, take the 9-man down to a 6.
Yeah.
You know, freeze up 200 points. Maybe you take instead of the second tree rev, you take Durthu, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or you pick up the bows. Like your meta trends a certain way, so now you trend a certain way. I mean, this is just stuff you do, and especially this is stuff you especially do if you're sticking with one army for an extended period of time. This is. I mean, you're faithful. You're loyal to your army. This is what you do. You list science. You're always asking the question, and you're always playing the games to learn a lesson and have some fun. Anything to add, my man? Because it's pumpkin time.
Yes. I'm glad you've got your eye to that, because I looked up and I was like, shoot, it's almost 10 o'clock. I don't know my out on this one. So for everybody that doesn't know me, I have a very delicate need to go to bed early, and Mephisto will tell you that it bit him in the butt once. Yeah,
just the one time though.
Yeah.
No, I like talking list science with you. You're this. I mean, you just it's just awesome. It's what we do, right?
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind doing this more as like you could call them like our one-offs, where if people just wanted to send in concepts, we'll throw a list together. I don't think that would be wouldn't be something that people wouldn't want.
Here's a thought, and this is spawned actually from doing some of the hobby streams I've been doing. I've had people showing up in my hobby streams like sending me their lists and like asking me like just questions about them. I'm like, what if list science was like a monthly installment with Brendan? And I think you solve the other part of the puzzle. Is like, what if people asked questions? We just like a floating episode type thing. Like it's not always like the Thursday, because the Thursdays tend to run. That's the 2-hour, 3-hour rantcast. But we did like a 1 hour. We grabbed a 1 hour on a Friday or something like that, or whatever.
Yeah.
On like a shifting schedule to do some list science just as a monthly installment for rantcast. I think not to put you on the spot, but like I think you were kind of moving towards it anyway.
Yeah, I'd be up for that, and it doesn't have to be me. There's a lot of people that are good at this.
Yeah. Oh, Alex, by the way, Alex Melnick, he was on for the Psychology of Sigmar episode. Great episode. It's still probably one of my favorites last year. Go check that out. He has a wacky brain for list science. That man asks questions no scientist should ask of a list. Like it's funny because it's like a progression, I think, between like Brendan, me, Haywo, Brendan, me, and then like you got Alex, and he's just this like you have all the tools to be a great list scientist, but you've tried to do this. Like I could take over the world, or I could make pudding that eats you. Like.
Yeah, he's not a mad or evil scientist. He's just a scientist with a really different set of goals.
Right. Yeah. So he does some great stuff. So I'll bring him on for some list science too. I think that's got to be the next installment, perhaps next month. Anyway, man, thanks for hanging out with me. Check out Keep It Shenanigans. Follow Hobby Bear on Twitter. Good night, chat gang. Thank you so much for holding us up tonight. Tonight's show was about you, and it always is. You're the show within the show. Brendan, man, once again, thank you. Good night.
Thank you.